Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another session of Faith in Politics. We are your hosts. I am Apostle Dr. Ivan Valerie, and together with me is Pastor Torona
Grandstand.
Grandstand. And so we are here for another episode of Faith in Politics, as we mentioned. And Pastor Torona, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Apostle. Thank you so much for asking. How was your night?
I had a wonderful night.
Okay.
I had a wonderful night last night. It was awesome. A lot of persons have been contacting us um,
Indeed.
concerning this program. And I think it is very important that we keep on stating that the purpose of faith in politics is not to tell anyone how they should vote.
Right.
The purpose is to let you get the right information. One of the reasons why this is so important, especially for our faith-based community, is because they are candidates who are also professing to be Christians. Now we cannot tell you who is saved or who is not saved. We cannot say this person is saved and this person is not saved. That's a personal relationship with you and your Lord as well. However, what we are seeking to establish is how someone's faith affects their political decisions. And so we want to inform the electorate in general, but more specifically those of the faith based community. And so I want to reiterate that this program is not to tell you who to vote for. It's just to give you information concerning the persons specifically that are of the faith-based community that are going up for election. Amen. And I
Absolutely.
say amen on that.
Amen. I agree.
Amen. Well, without further ado, this is the third session. This is our last session where we meet and sit down with candidates representing different political parties that are vying for the 15 parliamentary seats in the upcoming October 9th election. Today is the 8th of August, and let us begin.
That's a very significant date, if I might interject, Apostle.
Yes.
You say, let us begin, it's new beginnings.
It's new beginning.
So are we then, culminating with this program, we are establishing a foundation that will lead to a new beginning for St. Martin?
I definitely believe so.
Because we're people that move in the prophetic, right?
Exactly. I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe that God is doing a new thing in our nation. And I believe that a lot of times we quote scriptures, but we don't really understand. The Bible says that people perish for lack of knowledge.
Right.
And that is all we are doing, bringing information. And it is amazing that God would connect us together, Pastor Torana, because you have a background in journalism. You are well qualified. If you have to begin to list your qualification, I think it will take the entire program. But I have a little bit of experience in journalism myself. And so taking that into consideration, I think it's awesome that we can take our skills and use it for the kingdom.
Amen.
And so that I believe is amazing, and I thank God for the opportunity. I thank God that this program has also been sanctioned by the SMOF, the St. Martin United Ministerial Foundation. They are the one that has really been backing this program and this initiative. Now, if you do not know, SMOF is an organization that really supports the evangelical, the apostolic, the prophetic ministries on the island. And they specialize, should I say, in really lobbying for the kingdom of God in the halls of parliament and also government. The president of SMOMF is none other than Dr. Orlando Wilson, and so we say thank you, sir, for allowing us to be here on this platform as we just inform the general public at large as to the elections upcoming and how it would affect the faith-based community.
Absolutely. I would want to add as well, Apostle, that one of the main responsibilities of this month is the unity of the faith.
Amen.
So we really want to promote that, even as we're seeing the different candidates from different parts of the faith sphere in terms of Christianity, there is still a unity and not division, even if they're from different denominations and so forth. It's one body in the Lord Jesus Christ.
And that is exactly what we want to see in government as well.
Indeed.
We want to see a unified government, regardless of different political parties or whatever factions that you support. We are looking and believing God, and we are also praying. Let me say this: the church have never stopped praying. The church has always been praying. And so we are believing God that the upcoming government, the parliamentarians that will be elected, and the government that they would form would be one of unity and that would serve the people not in a religious manner but in a righteous manner. The word of God declares that when the righteous lead, when the righteous rule, when they get in authority,
The
that the
people will
people
rejoice.
rejoice. And so we are hoping that the nation of St. Martin, and not just the Christians, the entire nation, will experience a season of rejoicing because righteous men and women will rule this nation. Amen. I don't want to preach, so let's get into the discussion. Let us bring in our guest. We have three amazing candidates that we want to just have a sit down with and talk with today. We had the opportunity to sit down with, I think it was five different parties so far. We sat down with
Democratic
the Democratic
Party,
Party,
Mr.
Mr. Richardson,
Richardson,
number
number
23.
23. We also spoke with the now candidate, Peter Gittings, number
Yes,
4. Keep Peter Gittings, number 4 from the Now Party. We
Mr.
had Anna Richardson, number 7
from the National
from the
Alliance,
National Alliance. We also spoke with Elvison Adamas, that's the
number
number
two
2
of the
of the
OMC,
OMC party, and we had number 1 from the ECE, Nigel Weegley.
Nigel Wigley. And so today we have with us number 10, I think, of the on the up party, the United People's Party, and that is none other than Miss Natasha Manuela. I'm gonna bring her
16.
number
Natasha is number
16. Number 16. I
16
apologize. I apologize. I apologize. How
from
are
the
you
up.
doing? And welcome to
Good,
the program.
good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. It's so wonderful to be here in your presence, in God's presence, to share with you my knowledge and my experience. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much. Also, we have number 10 on the
URSM.
URSM party. That is none other than Mr. Michael Somersall. How are you doing, sir? Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you once as well for the invitation. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm happy that we got the platform where we can share our views and share our faith and how we look at things when it comes to politics, because they do go hand in hand. Although a lot of people may say not, you touch base on righteousness, and I'm happy to be part of this platform. Hello. Yeah. So I think we got stuck.
Somewhere.
Can you? Hello. Hmm. Hmm. Good morning once again. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be part of this platform, and I can't wait to share my views with the people of St. Martin for this upcoming election.
I believe somewhere the live got cut off
I think so.
because it's just both of us right now on the live. I'm not seeing them anymore.
Yes. Hmm.
Do you think we should leave and try come back in with the link that was
Maybe.
provided?
Maybe.
Okay, let's try that.
Yeah. Let's try that.
Hi everyone, can you hear us? I think we are back. Can you hear us, Natasha?
Yes, I can hear you loud and
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
Okay. Don't tell me we froze again.
So look like it.
Some serious technical difficulties
You
today.
know, little challenges.
I hope it's not necessary to log out again. Oh my
And
gosh.
that was something just in and out.
Let's see if they can log back in without us logging out.
Yeah.
That's not working.
No, I think we're gonna have to log out again.
Alrighty. There I go.
Let's see. Morning.
Good morning, Michelle. How are
How
you?
are you doing? I'm good. I'm good.
I am good. I am good. To God be the glory and good morning, everyone. I guess we can stay and wait till they get back because it's just
Y-
squeezing. Maybe GB.
Yes. Okay.
I ain't got no introduction. I just appear. Where's Natasha?
She was going to log back in. So we log out and log back in. And
Let me see if I recognize anybody on the feedback. Oh wow, a lot of people here. Good morning, Pastor Orlando. Good morning, Miss Charles. See, good morning, Justin. Hey, Roshana. Good morning, Pastor Toulon.
Thank you so much, guys, for for your patience. We are being shot by GB. We had like three interruptions, like bap, 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 bap. I don't know. They have upgraded from a Glock 16 to probably a machine gun now. So
Automatic.
automatic weapon. So we do apologize for that, and thank you so much for have the conversation going, for the interaction. Thank you so much. We were
no
in the
problem.
middle of introducing candidate number 3 for the
So
Let me
legal
turn off my
this
camera so I
assessment.
could come again.
no, no. So we have number 3, former MP Tamara Leonard from the Soliga Action Movement. Good morning again. How are you doing, Miss Leonard? Welcome to the
Good
program.
morning, and to God be the glory again. And I am
Amen.
well, thank you. I am well, grateful for the opportunity to be here as we continue to grow and learn and understand the word and see how we can mix faith and politics.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
So I'm gonna bring in back is
Number
number
16 of the
16
up.
of the up. How are you doing? Welcome back. Sorry for
Fine,
the interruption.
thank you. Thanks again.
Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Tamara. How are you?
I'm good, love.
All right. So we're gonna begin with the questions, and the first question I
Mhm.
want to ask, the first question I would like to ask you guys is, based on your what you are advocating for. Just share briefly what you are advocating for in this parliamentary election, what you are championing, and based on that, how does your faith align with that? I'm going to ask Miss Leonard to go first, and after we'll hear from the rest.
So basically, since it's not my first time in the race, I have served as a parliamentarian for 6 years in the past, and I champion more than anything social laws to bring about in the case of the maternity leave extension. I believe that pregnancy in and of itself is a risk. It's 1 foot in the graveyard and 1 foot out. You are bringing forth life. And after the body having gone through that, 12 weeks is not enough. It's basically they were 6 weeks before and 6 weeks after. So you expect that a mother will leave her 6-week-year-old baby home and go back out to work. I don't believe that I was giving the body enough time to heal. Furthermore, like many laws, it was an antiquated law. And so I wanted to extend it for much longer, but we were able, you have to consider the social, economic situations of the island as well. And so we extended to myself, along with the parliamentarians that voted for, extended it to 16 weeks. So 4 months now is what mothers have in maternity leave. In addition to that, we also allowed for the first time in history the partner paternity leave, giving fathers or partners the opportunity to spend more time with the baby and help out the mother at home. So my laws are more ills within the community. I seek for ways to solve them through laws, and the laws that I am bringing now, some of them, two of them I already paid for out of pocket, and will be bringing to Parliament again more on the social side. But I am definitely open to national dialogue to deal with things of the economy so that we can get government to do her job in bringing the economy by bringing tourists, and then by extension businesses do well, and by extension the people do well. So just basically having the opportunity to to have dialogue and finding ways for our people to have more prosperity in every area of life. I love the Lord. My becoming a Christian was in the latter part of my life. I have less years in the kingdom of God fully than I had outside. And by that I mean, of course, we were raised in the church, but as um, rebellious children, I would call me, I ain't speaking for nobody else, you took your own way. And through everyone have their story and how they came there. Some people grew in the church and stuck there and they lived that life. But I come from the world where the church was not my safe place. It was a place that I wanted times when I wanted it. It was so much judgment, and you were not clean enough in here. You were too sinful. At least that was the perception of times back then. And through me being sick and completely surrendering to God and making deals with Jesus to please save me, I have learned Jesus's compassion. I have learned to build my character. I have learned endurance through growing through trials. So my story, as far as becoming a Christian and loving the Lord and understanding what Jesus's purpose here on earth was, I often come from the more compassionate side in welcoming people in, because people tend to feel like Christians are these disciplinarians, and you can't do that, so you can't be a Christian, and Christians are not. But we are all sinners. We are
Yeah.
all sinners, and Jesus came and he died for that. And so I try not to force my Christian beliefs and what I know and what I love of the Lord and his son Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit that lives in me. I try not to force that onto anyone, because my story is people used to try to force it onto me, and it didn't work that way. So I want to have an open arm system where we can bring them in and give God the opportunity through his son Jesus Christ, or give Jesus the opportunity to work on the hearts of people and their decisions. I often say that I often used to question, why did Jesus leave, or why did God place that tree of wisdom in the Garden of Eden? He could have just leave everybody be good. Like, why did you put that tree there? Because that tree gave us knowledge of good and bad, And so I always wondered that. And then I understood through study and learning that he wants us to choose him freely. He wants us to choose him. And so all of these things I keep into consideration, and my personal experiences in how I will align the things, of the constitution of the country that you're swearing to take, and the constitution of the kingdom of God that I am a part of.
Thank you so much. Well said. Thank you so much. We're gonna go over to Mr. Somersault from the URSM. So you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I'm championing, safeguarding essential necessities. If we look at what is going on around us today, there are so much going on and so much challenges for us in the country that is really affecting the people. I'm talking about the electricity and water situation we have. I'm talking about the economy. I'm talking about housing for our people, healthcare, education, all those topics need to be tackled. And I'm championing that because we need to protect our people, our goal as Christians. And my decision making is based off of two commandments. The first two: first, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength. And the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. If we practice, and I use that for decision making, if we stick to those two commandments, our goal is to lift our people. Our goal is to protect them. Our goal is to make sure that they're doing well, not only physically, but spiritually as well. When I make a decision, I hinge it on those two commandments because one cannot do without the other. It's like you have an expansion bridge with two towers, and on one side, you got to love God. The other side, you got to love your neighbor as yourself. And if one collapses, the whole bridge will fall. And when I make decisions, I look at those two things. How are my decision making going to affect my neighbor, my brother, my sister, my mom, my kids? And we need leaders with compassion to sit in parliament, leaders who are willing to listen to the people. And when we're going to make a decision, we always have to look, how is it going to affect our people? What is the ultimate outcome? And that's why when people say, faith and politics don't mix, I don't agree, because that is our foundation for making righteous choices. It is the foundation that we practice within church. And now it had to spill over to the rest of the community because in the church where I represent, I'm the elders quorum president. I'm responsible for everybody above 18 years old for their temporal well-being as well as spiritual well-being. Um, I've been a member for over 20 years, and I've had this calling for a very long time, and I've seen how decision making can really affect the people. And once you include God in the mix, you will always make a righteous decision. If you could not present an answer or a decision to God, then you already know that it's not the right decision. Now, Tamara said it well, we don't have to force our will on people, but our faith and what we know determines the type of decisions that we will make. And that decision will never be to put our people in jeopardy. It will always look at the holistic picture of everyone, no one excluded, because God is not a respecter of persons. He said to love everybody. And based on that is how I make decisions. We need to have our educational system up to par because we really have to reach our youth. And I'm championing for the youth. There's the next generation. They're coming after us. We have to lead by example. You can't tell somebody to do something and then you do something else. No, it leads by example, and action do speak louder than words. But we have to reach our youth. In this critical time, we have to reach our youth if we want to change the outcome of our nation. And I say, you know what, let's take back the streets so we can take back our future. And we have to reach to the people and especially our youth so we can change the future for St. Martin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Somerset, for your excellent answer. I'm going to turn the floor now to Ms. Natasha Manuel from the United People's Party.
Good morning once again. Thank you for having us. I am championing tax reform. And my reasoning for championing tax reform is because I am an accountant by profession, and being in the private sector, I have heard the cries and I'm hearing the cries of the people that are suffering from our tax situation at this point in time. And once we don't have money circulating in our economy, that is the reason why it trickles down into crime and also the poverty that we are having presently, because we cannot afford the livelihood that we are having, because the island right now is very expensive to live. And for that reason, I have decided, my first time, I have decided to join the political arena, because I've always been on the back lines. I'm a very shy person, for all those that know me. And I said, okay, I'm not seeing it being done. So at one point in time, someone has to get it done. And because of that is why I am running right now. How this ties in my spiritual walk as a Christian, as a believer, we have to stand up and let the people know that we are God's children. Because without Him, because remember, He said He is the light of the world, and our faith is projected through Him. And as a believer, His light projects through us. And we will continue to be able to let people see the light of God through us, and they will be able to understand that He is King and ruler of all. Because without Him, we are nothing. We always have to make sure that we walk with Him wherever we go, and He will guide us and give us the words of wisdom to be able to speak to the nations. Because at the end of the day, it also says in the Bible, give Caesar what is due unto Caesar, but the love of money is the root of all evil. So we always have to make sure that we understand those two things, and those are things that I live by. Give Caesar what is due to Caesar. And I also live by the love of money is the root of all evil. But we also need money to be able to live on this world. So, with that being said, we have to find a balance. And for that is why I came into this, that we can find a balance between both of them and be able to carry this nation into prosperity. Because God placed us here on this earth to be able to multiply and continue. And there's where our youths come into as well. And we have to open doors and make room for them. So if this economy continues the way it is, the crime that is right now on this island has to be stopped. And for that to be able, we need to find money in our economy so that parents will be able to feed their children, send them to school so they can get a better education and they will not be on the street like before. Because in my days of growing up, I'm very young still, but it was said, let um, the village raise the child. We have lost that. And the village no longer raises the child because our youths, as we can see, they are going astray because of the poverty, and their parents have to be working 2 and 3 jobs to be able to make ends meet. And they cannot be at home to give that child that spiritual upbringing, the love and affection that is needed. And for that reason, I have decided to take up politics to become a leader that will take this nation into prosperity.
Thank you so much for that, Miss Manuela. Well said. If you're just joining us, because we have gone a little time already, when we take into account the different interruptions, if you're just joining us, you're in tune to Faith in Politics, the three of our sessions, and these are the last candidates that we will have in this format of the program. An invitation was also extended to the PFP, the Party for Progress, but we did not receive any confirmation of participation. I believe we just need to put that out there,
Yes.
Apostle, that this was conducted with all equity in mind. So everyone was invited to be a part of this session. Um, Ms. Leonard, just I want to say publicly thank you for championing that legislation as it relates to the maternity and even paternity rights. I am one of those who is surely enjoying right now my maternity leave. Surely,
Good.
surely enjoying it. And
Mhm.
that is just awesome. And we also want to commend Mr. Summersall and Miss Manuela for those areas that you are looking into, which also form part of good governance, safeguarding critical infrastructure, like you said, Michael, safeguarding those. If the institutions are not working, then we are not getting it right. And until those work, then we will get it right. And of course, we need financial prosperity. Everybody wants that. Money answers all things. That's what Miss
True.
Manuela was telling us, but do it with wisdom, right?
Right.
So we really
Mhm.
appreciate hearing from you in that way. What I want to ask, though, Apostle, is that we have heard from our candidates, and usually when folks are commending themselves to us and offering yourself for public life, we hear about all of the good things that you have done, all of the qualifications and the competencies that you have, and what you will be doing, all of the nice things, the promises when you get in there, if you should get the consensus. But the question I would like to ask is in the context of Second Corinthians chapter 6, verse 3 to 5. The Apostle Paul was saying, we put no stumbling block before you or in anyone's path so that your ministry will not be discredited. We believe that service in this arena is also ministry. So we're not putting a stumbling block in your path by having you answering some tough questions to discredit your ministry, but we would like to get you on the record and also for transparency. The Apostle Paul in verse 4 says, rather, as servants of God, because you all have confirmed that you are Bible believing Christians, we commend ourselves in this way through great endurance and the hardships that we have suffered. We would like you to share with us some of the hardships that you have suffered that will prepare you to stand at that national level. I will start with Miss Manuela.
All right. The hardships that I have endured, as I said before, I'm an accountant. So personally, it has been a very difficult road where it comes to dealing with the finances of the country and also handling customers that are faced with those difficulties of tax assessments, being an accountant, and also myself. I have also been a victim of the system of not being handled properly and things being in order, whereby you get assessments of fictitious amounts, and when you try to deal with it in the system, they the capability and the answers that you receive are very vague and unable to deal with that. So, with that, again, I'm saying that our tax administration needs a complete overhaul whereby the tax assessments has to be in the proper order, in the proper fashion, whereby the correct amounts are given to our taxpayers so that they will be able to have monies in their pockets and be able to survive in this thriving economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that response, Mr. Summersall. The same question for you. How can you commend yourself, as the Apostle Paul said, to the electorate through the hardships and the troubles that you would have suffered to be able to stand in Parliament?
Well, as a student growing up, hardship, I think as any student, you go through the days when you had no food to eat, really, or not much, and you make do with what you had. And just this morning, I had a discussion with one of my employees about just having rice and beans to eat as a student growing up and how we made that work. Um, I know the struggles that people are going through. I've worked in the field with a lot of people, like I work in the hospitality industry, and you hear the cries. Besides that, um, I too had to experience the system when I wanted to come back home as a student, finish studying and working abroad, that you will get the news that you're either overqualified, you have to be here on the island to apply for a job. These are things that can really discourage you as a St. Martin who want to come back home and contribute, because you say, you know what, I can make my money elsewhere and I can do well. Here, as a business person, the system is not in business environment friendly. Getting your business off the ground is challenging. Sometimes you get audited, or if you ask too much questions, the culture sometimes is to, you know what, let's look a little deeper into his affairs or her affairs. And sometimes people are not treated fairly. Um, I come from a humble family. I mean, we grew up in St. Peter's. My parents worked 2 and 3 jobs. I've seen that. The only thing that my mom really asked for us was 2 things: make sure you get an education, and number 2, always have respect. That's what she asked us for. I'm happy to say that all of her sons adhere to it. But I have seen poverty, and especially through my ministry in the church, um, and having to talk with people who are really going through it. When you're in that position, it's not only the person going through the hardships, you're going through it with them. And
Mhm.
the goal then is to, how can I help them to the best of my ability through wisdom, to alleviate that burden, and at times to carry that burden with them. One of the toughest times when my dad passed, but going through that experience and being in the Netherlands, and it's not like you can just take a lot of days off. You're on the job, you get a call, you have to deal with that situation, but they expect you to come back to work pretty soon. You have to be able to say, hey, I have my personal affairs that I have to deal with. This is my professional life. And I've learned over the years that when I go to the job, I will take my bag of personal um, problems or whatever I have, rest it at the door. I'll perform my job. And when I go back home, they train you to pick it back up. Now, not everybody's equipped to do that. I can really put things in compartments that where my personal life stresses will not influence my job. But having gained all those experiences, I know exactly how to tackle different problems to always have the best result. We all go through struggles. We all went through Irma. And for me, material things is just that, material things. It's really about the people and the safety of the people. We could always get another car. You can always put on another roof. But once the people are safe and well taken care of, together we can build back. And we've seen that after Irma. And this one thing that I learned, that doesn't matter what challenge come our way, if we are willing to stand together, together we are able to build back, and we are able to build families and secure families.
Thank you. And we'll go to Tamara Leonard.
Question is, since I have served, it's a little more. I have examples of ways that I've had to find that balance in doing what is right, whether it suits you or yours, but choosing the path that considers the whole. Country above self is one of the ways that you balance your decision making and deal with the obstacles that you are faced with, how you make those decisions. It cannot be about you and your surroundings. For example, the paternity leave or the maternity leave extension cannot benefit me, but it couldn't be something that, okay, so I ain't gonna benefit from that, so I'm not gonna worry with it. We have to have the mindset that it is not about self, it's about country, it's about the people, it's about the growth of our economy. And one of the things that was most difficult for me in that time was holding government accountable. And by that I mean, you now have to bring ministers to parliament and hold them accountable for their actions, hold them accountable for things that they are doing that does not necessarily benefit the country or is messing with history. We have to remember that there were people that went before us and paved the way for us to be here. And you got to find that balance in how you are going to innovate and bring new without messing with history to an extent that you disrespect it, as well as create a space for going forward with keeping in mind the guides that it won't be spun out of control.
What are some of the stripes, Tamara, that you have had? We want
Well,
to hear the hardships. It doesn't have
well,
to be in the political arena, the experience that you would have had
so
to
I've
commend
had.
yourselves to us that you know what pain is.
Okay, so I'm
For
going to give you
example,
two examples. I enter into the arena with mentors, with people that I know love me and I know care about me. And so you are to trust them, we have that trust. But in the middle of a meeting where things aren't going their way, before I was mature enough politically to understand some of the moving parts within Parliament, and my entire team decides that we're walking out of this meeting for whatever reason, and I have to now determine that am I going to just follow or I'm going to stand my ground and feel that I should not have to leave this meeting. And I chose to stay and not follow. And these are your mentors. These are the people that are training you, that are teaching you. But I have my own opinion as well. And so I did not go with the crowd. That was difficult because then inside, well, you've just, you show up the referee, for lack of a better term, but that's what I believed in that moment, and that's what I stood on. Now let me tell you this: through times I realized, and understood in some cases that you want to stop a meeting that is going in a direction that will cause havoc. So I also experienced a time where I was, so we ain't getting up, we ain't leaving this meeting because what are you going to leave this continue? So it's about maturity. And then the next thing that one of the toughest lessons that I've had to learn is, a particular individual who I grew up with. I have always loved politics, so that was no question. And this particular individual basically groomed me from a child, as far as politics. I could ask him anything. I can share my opinion. He would show me different things. And then it ended up being that I am on the opposite side of the bench in Parliament, holding him accountable as a minister. And of course, politicians being politicians, dancing around questions. And basically, I had to come hard, really hard. Borderline disrespectful from the perspective of that's an elder of mine, and I have to now hold him accountable for his not necessarily his actions, but the actions of his team that he was trying to protect. So I had to really penetrate and cross some invisible boundaries that I would never on a normal basis, but I could not allow my relationship stop me from being the parliamentarian that is there to serve the country. I had to choose country over that relationship in that moment. And I could have, now looking back, I could have done it differently. differently. I could have been a little more because I go rough around the edges. You see me here. I am a work in progress. Believe you me, God ain't finished with me yet. And so my approach was a little harsh, but for me in the moment, it wasn't about just being harsh. It was a answer the question. You know the answer. We know the answer, but tell the people, you know. So
Are those some of the reasons then, Miss Leonard, why you had to resign or you resigned from the UP
absolutely not.
party? How different is the ideology between the UP and the SAM?
Oh, that's a fully loaded question there, Pastor. First of all, one, no, that is not why I left. In my first term to becoming during the campaign trail, a few weeks before election day, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that was from 2014. In that year, that I got was able to start back to work in 2015, almost 11 months after being elected. So that played on me, and I think that was a driving force in me having to come with laws, having to be the parliamentarian I need to be because I was done on sick leave. I started out on sick leave, but it was not my fault, you know. So no, that's not why I left. In 2020, I had gone through 3 elections, all of which were snap elections like this that we're in right now, where politicians were not mature enough to just sit in opposition. It is a part of parliament. You know,
Yeah.
it is a part of the
Governance
structure. It
structure,
is a
Hmm.
right?
part. So why is it that when you get thrown into opposition, you got to call an election? You are taking the country through unnecessary debt.
Trauma.
You are
Yeah.
taking the country through unnecessary trauma. And so I went through 3 of those. And for the fourth one, I couldn't figure out which side of my face I was going to use to ask people to vote for me yet again in a fourth election. And then besides that, I needed a break. I needed a break because as a politician, as an elected official, it's a constant, constant, constant. And you have to know that, you know what, at a given moment, you got to take care of the temple that you are, that house he who lives within me. And I had to take a step back, and to God be the glory. I stepped back in February, and by October, I was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time. And that round took me much longer to grow out of because I then lost my both breasts. So the recovery was much different. The treatment part was much different. I literally, in the first time, and not to stray, in the first round of my cancer, it was suggested because of the depth of the grade and the stage of my cancer, it was suggested that I not necessarily the chances of it reoccurring was high. And so they wanted me to take approach of the natural, so marijuana and the chemotherapy. But at that time I was adamant, no marijuana. I am going to do the radiation. I am going to be well, you know, and it is what it is. And by the second time, it was less than 10 years, I could not have done radiation again. So I had no choice but to use the medical marijuana process for my healing. So I said that so that you can know that some of the obstacles that you face and some of the things that you stand firmly on, you can't promise anyone in this campaign trail that I am going to be for or I am going to be against, because it comes a time when you're going to meet life face on, and you're going to have to make some unpopular decisions that even goes against what you believe. And you have to also keep that in consideration for others and what they might have to go through in life. So I hope that answers the
Thank you,
question
thank you,
as to
thank you for
why I
sharing
took
that.
a break, why I took that break. But the difference between where I am now and where I was, I have to be fair and say that up in 2014 and 16 changed a long time as time went by, and up of 2024 is not the up that I was a part of, and not in a negative way or anything. It's just different leadership styles, different principles, and different things that the two stood on and was willing to sacrifice. And I in the last election I did run with up because it was my first time back into the race after taking the break. And up didn't do me anything, so I didn't see a need to leave. That was the party that afforded me the first opportunity to serve my country. And so I felt the sense of loyalty to remain there. but the feedback that I was getting from the people and my constituents were that I was on the wrong party at that time based on the ideologies from before to now. And then in the end, it showed in the numbers. So that is why I made the move. And at this place where I am now, it's a completely different response that I'm getting from my constituents and from people on a whole.
Okay,
So, and
even though some of the folks that are in the SAM are the same people that were in the UP?
yes, because what you have is a whole new and perfect question, because what you had in 2014, so I went up since 2010. I didn't run until 2014. But as a board member in 2010, the things that UP promoted, the things that UP was about, the candidate selection process of the UP back then was different to the candidate process now. You know, back then it was, let's get someone in education who can contribute to the laws and bring about change in the educational system. And that's just an example. And I want to go in and in because I don't want to sound like
Okay,
I hear knocking.
thank you for
But
that.
the
Thank you for
difference,
that.
the
Tomorrow we
difference
will
there
have to
is,
move on, but we
yeah,
believe that we get the point and our viewers would
yes.
have gotten the point. I want to give Natasha Manuela the opportunity to respond. Share with us a bit about the party ideology because you have aligned yourself with that party, the United People's Party, and also the selection process for
Yeah.
candidates like yourself. I know that you are a professional. Share with us that.
Okay. Thank you for the question. The ideology of the party is to carry this country, St. Martin, into prosperity. That's their ideology. Having been in the party since 2023, because I'm also the treasurer on the board of the party, I have been in alignment with the previous leader, Mr. Rolando Bryson, and now our present leader, Mr. Umar Utley. And the manifesto that we have brought out is specific for each and every ministry within the country to be able to take this country to the next step. And my reason for being in the party, again, is because of professionalism. The candidates that are now on the list are all professionals that are capable to run this country. And we are also in alignment with each other. We all, in some way, have the entrepreneurship mentality and being able to know and understand and be able to bring laws because we are in the private sector. We are working in the private sector. Some of us have also sat in parliament, are in parliament presently. So we know the do's, the ins, and the outs of the parliament system on how it works. And we'll be able, with our qualifications, with our professionalism, to take things over and continue into prosperity.
Okay, thank you for that. In the last governing term, we knew
Mhm.
that Sheriff Up served as the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor. Two things that he
Yes.
is still promoting at this time was the Otley Care proposed national general insurance and
Yes.
also the rising of the minimum wage. Just yesterday at the Council of Ministers press conference, Minister Veronica Janssen Webster, I believe her name is, she said that the way in which Omar Otley released the minimum wage increase through a ministerial decree was incorrect. It did not go through the proper legislative channels, and so the private sector is not even following that in terms of raising to 10 guilders 40 per hour. Is this true?
That is incorrect because, as I said again, I'm an accountant by profession, and I do know that 100% that so far everyone is using the 1040 increase in the minimum wage. So that I know for sure is incorrect. And where it comes to the Otley Care, that one, it is something that is going to help us in the situation right now as a professional myself, where SFA is busy trying to take directors out of their system. And directors with a higher salary, when they came in and they said that directors are allowed to be part of the medical system, which will take them away from private insurance at Nagico, now are, I would say personally, the driving force of SFA. Because remember, we carry a higher salary than the normal person that is paying minimum wage. So we are the ones right now contributing more into the coffers of the SFA. And that is something that SFA wanted to take out first. It was out, I think, in 2022 that they changed it, and they said all new directors that are coming in, they are no longer able to get SFA coverage and have to get private insurance. But those that were there before September 2022, they are allowed to be remain covered. And then now that changed, and they wanted to make it across the board, no matter what your status is, you no longer become covered on the SFA and have to take private insurance. The thing is, with having private insurance, is to a certain age limit. That's number one. Number two, you have to first pay for your medical expenses, and then that is refunded to a certain amount. Once you are under SFA, all your expenses are covered. And that helps us as a community. And it also helps again where it comes to the Otley care. The difference between SFA and the Otley care that is being proposed is that our sole proprietors that are at this moment have to take, compelled to take private insurance, would be able to get medical insurance. That will also bring money into the coffers of government, and will also bring a relief again to the people of the country.
Okay, thank you, Natasha, for answering that. I would want to ask you for clarity because I do believe
Mhm.
that Edway would have retracted that statement.
Yeah,
That
they did.
directive
They did.
was sent out, so directors are still covered in terms
Yes.
of their medical insurance until the national insurance comes on place sometime next year, hopefully. Um, can I ask? In terms of the current regime, the setting that we have now, why is it that people still cannot get coverage in terms of like their eyewear, dental, and is
Under
that
SFA,
covered? And is that covered? I know it's not covered with SZV. We know that. We experience that. But is that covered in the proposal that the UP was proposing in terms of this national health insurance?
yes, it is. SFA covers your eye testing. They do not cover eyewear, but they do cover your eye testing. So you will be able to get free eye care, free eye testing under SFA. That is possible. But under the Otley care, you'll be able to get eyeglasses, and also it is extended as well to dental care.
All right, we move on. Thank you for that clarity. I want to go to Michael Somerset. Apostle, sorry.
Right.
let me
Go
do
ahead,
you
go
have a
ahead. No,
question?
go ahead. If you have a question, go ahead. The reason why I wanted to bring on Michael because he seemed to want to interject when Miss
Manuela.
Manuela was speaking about the SZP. Is there something you want to set the record straight,
Mhm.
sir?
Yes, I know in 2022, the salaries was raised so that the directors could join SFE. And then we have the whole thing going on, of course, now that they want to exclude them. My key thing with that whole thing with excluding the directors is it's also pertaining to their dependents, spouses, children are all put at risk at the same time. What is now the problem? People with pre-existing medical conditions do not get insured by private insurance companies.
Mm.
So if you exclude them now from SZV, they're all at risk. And I asked the question, was SZV taking this into consideration when they was making this decision? Because who are going to cover those expenses? And it goes as far as pregnancy, because if you're pregnant, that too is considered a pre-existing medical condition. And some private insurance are even asking families not to get pregnant for 2 years after signing that policy.
Mm.
So the question is SFV now going to pick up the slack and cover the persons with pre-existing medical conditions or retain them in SFV? Because the private insurance companies is not going to insure them for those pre-existing medical conditions. And there was a similar case in Curacao, and we knew this before we raised the salaries to include these directors, but still we went along with it. And here we are 2 years later, And the statement from SFE said until further notice. It's not indefinite. It's still going to happen. It could still happen next year or whenever. It's just not going to happen now on the day that they put for September. And these are things we have to really take into consideration, and things that we who are running have to question, because this is serious matter. We cannot say general health insurance for everybody on one hand, and we're excluding other families and putting them on risk on the other hand.
How do you propose we fix
Correct.
this?
I think is either we're going to have to, sorry,
In less than 2 minutes.
I think
Sir,
SFE will have to observe those courses.
can you
They're going to have
repeat?
to, sorry, yeah, SFE will have to cover the costs for people with pre-existing medical conditions until we get everything wired out properly. That's what I think.
Would this require legislation?
Yeah, as well. But now you will have to fix that before you exclude them. So then we will have to take time.
Okay, we definitely have to bring former
Thank
MP
you.
Tamara Leonard on
Yes.
this.
Yes, I had.
She is biting in the background there to get in. Former MP,
You know,
what are your views?
it's a simple thing. One of the issues that we face as a country is that our laws are antiquated. Now, that specific law that excluded directors of businesses from having medical coverage from 1940 something or 1960 something, was that law came about. The spirit behind the law was people who did business back in the day were in good financial standing. It was the people who had good means and access to private insurance and those things. They were not included then because it was only, for lack of a better term, people with money that used to do business. But what we have now is more people, younger people, people from all walks of life that are doing business. And so the law, which by the way, as a they has as a part of their reparation, I think is the word, laws that they are updating, and it's going to be fixed and repaired. I want to say that it's going to be included in the NHI or the GHI. That's a law that has been worked on since 20, I want to say 17 or 18. When I was in Parliament is when this law started. Those things are being repaired in that law. What happened a few months ago, a few weeks ago here, is that because of jurisprudence, they had no choice but to cover it. But the intention is to fix that old law, because now more than just people with money doing business, so you're going to have to cover them. You understand? And that's why it's important that we deal with the old laws. And in these elections, don't focus so much on ministry. You have to focus on the laws that we have to streamline to bring our country power to just about any normal living ability for our people, and leave ministers deal with ministry stuff. I think that's where the confusion comes about, because that only happened because the law is old. The law is old. The law was for people who had money, used to do business back then. Regular me and you and Natasha and Michelle, we wasn't the business people. We used to be the employees back in the day. But now we are taking our place and doing business too. But the laws ain't innovating with us. The laws staying there in the black and white farm, stuck in that time, but we have gone on. So
Exactly.
that
1946 to be exact.
1946, I didn't want to say 64, 46 because I didn't want to mess it up, but I did my due diligence on that law to know, well, that is why it came about. That is why we are faced with those issues then. It's the same thing with the maternity leave. That was a 1960 somebody too. You understand? But we have to now go into Parliament and focus on laws. That is what we are called to do there. That's all I wanted to say. It would have killed the whole conversation if I had get out a little sticking one time. You got mute on us. You got mute on us.
Yeah, the mouth's moving, we're not hearing them.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. We have to move on. Thank you so much, former MP, for your contribution. We have a question from our viewer online, and it question is my question is for the overqualify for if you are overqualified, sorry, for the job, how can they bring people from overseas that has higher qualification and get
Get
the
the job.
job with higher salaries? That's a situation that we see on the island. And I want to ask if Mr. Somersault can just shed some light on that for us.
Well, I think it's an excuse. That's my opinion, because this is absolutely true. We bring in people from abroad with other qualifications who are not from here. I think it's one way people are trying to secure their own jobs, because that's what you hear. At the same time, when I wanted to move back, or when you have students want to move back, instead of offering us a house or offering them a house or somewhere to stay, the question is going to become, you have family here where you could stay? And that is unfair. And this is something that we have to change, because we're saying we're getting a brain drain in our country, yet we're not enticing our own people to come back home. Even if you don't want them to come back home now, when we're looking for experts away, and we have a lot of experts who are from here living abroad, we can include them in projects. They can do the research for us and give us the answers. They know St. Martin, they know the culture, but still we don't give them a chance. And this is something we're championing, because we can get rid of brain drain if we just include our own people who are living abroad, who want to come back and come, but you can use their expertise even when they're abroad. But this is
If
something we
elected,
hear often.
if elected, so what are some of your proposals to rectify the situation?
With this higher education,
Yes.
overqualified.
Yes.
Well, I think it has to be fair chances for everybody. When it comes to legislation, it's very hard to tell a company what to do and who they're going to hire. But we have to make it for government. If you look at the government apparatus, we have to make it enticing that we say, you know what, if you go away and study and you're coming back home, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, but the packages that we're going to offer our students have to be the same that we will offer non-nationals. That is one thing. So I think that's where it will lie, on the packages that we will be offering to our students abroad, as well as when we send students abroad, we know what we need for the country. And in that package, with giving the study financing for them to go abroad, we can also include incentive packages from the get-go, that guys, when you go away to study, when you come back, this is the offer we have for you. And you leave them know that before they go away to study. I think that will be one way to do it as well.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on to another question from one of our viewers. Let us
But
go on
nobody
to
else a question.
just now. I'm going to
No.
get it. We are trying to get as much questions in as possible from our viewers. We ask them, we urge them, we beg them to send their questions in. So we're gonna take this question from the viewer. We're gonna ask you. That is from Dr. Nolan Nanton. He says the candidates are in the context, of a party, and therefore their intentions may be hindered due to the party guidelines. Are their values the same as their party value? Can they work in isolation to accomplish their intentions? And how does
Legalities.
legalities play a role with them accomplishing their intentions? I know it's a handful, it's a three questions in one, but I would like to get your views on that from an MP. Are you, in the context of representing your party, are your intentions hindered by the party's guidelines?
So, absolutely not, first of all. But when asked to be a part of this party, I didn't say yes. I had to A, pray about it, and B, I needed to share my views and what I. The truth of the matter is, I know my leader. My leader is my substitute brother since I lost my brother. So I know what he stands for. I know that he's a God-fearing man. So I know that, that a lot of what we do aligns. However, I wanted to ensure that, for example, my ability, my strength in Parliament will be, is and will be bringing laws to the floor of Parliament. And that's because I bring these laws to the floor of Parliament, whether Parliament has the resources for them or not. I have been and will continue to use the salary that is paid from the people's tax money to contribute to laws that are going to help shape our country and nation and head it towards a place of prosperity. So, no, I do not have, of course, you're going to continue to, I ain't going to go off and run a tantrum or doing my own thing as if I don't have an affiliation. Of course, we're going to have discussion. Of course, I'm going to run it by and through consultation with the team of what my ideas are, because others may also want to add to those, and so we can do it together, or I will just be able to do it on my own like I have been doing in the past with at least one or two of them, and others was with the team, so I love the values of this party. The thing about it is I've learned that people can have ability to do stuff. People can have the knowledge, the education to do things. And you want to be with a group of people who are professional and who want to take this country to another place. But it cannot be by all means necessary. And that is where, for me, I needed a place where there are guidelines, there is some do's and some don'ts. You have 2 or 3 sets of people in our electorate. You have those people who just don't care. Who is in it? Listen, you want me to vote for you? Give me some cash and we good to go. They don't care what happened to the country. And then you have that group of people who needs our country to remain in the state that it is in now, so that they can have the freedom to continue to take advantage of this country and her human resource. And those people will heavily campaign candidates to be able to do whatever they like, have the resources, the money to be able to buy votes, sell votes, give away this, fix this for people, and do all the things that reeks of a lack of integrity. And so not because you can means that you should. There has to be some sense of integrity, and you have to be able to align yourself with people who you know for a fact. You can't pretend that there's this whole bunch of smoke around candidates. There's accusations of this, investigations for that. There's all these wrong misuse of powers happening, and you're just gonna stay there and be like, okay, I know I good, I know God know my heart pure, so me worrying about it, that can't work.
Okay,
It
thank you.
can't work.
Thank you so much for my MP. Thank you so much. I wanna run to Miss Manuela because she has to leave to catch a flight soon. But Miss Manuela, I wanna ask you this question. The second part of the question: Are your values the same as your party values?
So far, yes, to be honest, our values align with each other. And what we bring forth is in correspondence. Again, we are a team. We have different ideas, but as a team, we sit together, we have various meetings together, we sit together, we bring forth our ideas, and we lobby with each other on how we can get things do, and we learn from each other. Again, we are all different individuals, so we have different views on things. We are not machines where we are created the same. So we all have different ideas, we all have different views on how we see things, but we are able to sit together and agree and be able to work together. And
Can
that
you
is
share
important where it comes to everything.
can you share with us what are
Uh-huh.
some of those values? Can you share with us what some of those values are? You said the values between the party and yourself, they align. Share with us a bit of
Mhm.
those.
The values of love, the values of care, the values of wanting to see good for this nation is what we have within each other, and love. Because the greatest above all is love for each other. And that is what I have seen thus far. Again, everyone has a different view on things at times. At times, we also agree to disagree because we are human beings at the end of it all. So I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, we are robots and we agree to everything. That does not happen in this world. But we are able, at the end of the day, to hold one head on what we would like to do.
What is your view on the separation between church and state?
Whew. My view on the separation of church and state is whereby everyone claims that the church has to stay away where it comes to state. But at the end of the day, we are the church. You understand? So, and we are the ones that are living in this state. So it is very difficult that we exclude ourselves on what is going on. And as the church, we have the most say because we are the leaders within the nation. And that is something that I strongly believe in, that as church, we have to have more say into what is going on within the community.
And there's a scripture, Natasha, from Proverbs 29, verse 2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, I think it's Michael that quoted it at the beginning, the people rejoice. As
Yes,
Amen.
Pastor.
A Bible believing Christian, you know that scripture very, very well. I would like to ask you, who do you consider to be the righteous?
Amongst the people, who do I consider to be the righteous
When the
or
righteous,
within my belief?
what does your belief tell you, your belief system? How do you identify
What are some of the characteristics
of the righteous?
of the righteous?
The characteristics of the righteous is most and foremost God fearing. Because if we do not fear God, we cannot do anything because we are not people of ourselves. At the end of the day, our Father, Jesus Christ, is the one that leads us. And if we do not have his spirit within us, we are nothing. We are just an empty shell because he gives us life abundantly. That is my belief.
Okay. Before you go, because we really know that you have to go, just one last question. I would like you to
Mhm.
answer with whether you are for or against.
Okay.
And then we will go to the other candidates responding and continuing the discussion. Are you for the legalization of marijuana for medicinal and recreational use? Are you for it or against it?
I am for it where it comes to saving lives. But for anything else, I am 100% against it.
Okay, we'll go
Because
to the
as Tamara said just now, that helped her in her second diagnosis for her cancer treatment.
thank you for that. Secondly, as it relates to LGBTQ plus
Right.
rights. It's so long. The expansion of those rights. Are you for the expansion of those rights and the protection?
100% against. That is abomination in the spirit of God.
And so, if you were in parliament and you had to vote on a legislation, you wouldn't vote according to party lines then, if this was the position of your
No,
party.
no, I would not.
And since you're the tax lady, my final question, should we impose or introduce a sin tax on alcohol, so called sin tax on alcohol and tobacco?
Yes, I agree with that.
Thank you so much. We wish you all the best, safe flight, and thank you
I
for
think
accepting the
I think it
invitation.
will be fair
Okay.
to give you a 2 minute window to just give your closing
Indeed.
remarks because you have to leave. So you can go ahead and do that now.
All right. I would like to thank you very much, Pastor and Apostle, for the opportunity as a first timer to be here amongst our veterans, MP Tamara Leonard,
Kind of
a
veteran.
lady that a lady that I cherish very much. I have learned a lot from her. This is I think, my second platform with her. And even though we are on different sides, when we were on the same side, um, we shared a lot together. We are not enemies because at the end of the day, we have to work together to bring this country where it has to be.
Amen.
And I always say there are individuals in every party that is capable and are willing from their heart to run this country in the direction that it has to go. Mr. Summersaw, I know very much from very young because we grew up in St. Peter's together. I went to school with his younger brother, and the opportunity here, again, I'm in the learning stage. I have learned so much, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my
You're
heart
welcome.
for this opportunity. And to my fellow candidates, much success on August 19th. I love you guys.
What are the chances of all three of us coming straight out of SP?
Exactly. Just a matter of the
Yeah.
road.
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
That's
you.
right.
and God bless you
Bye.
and much
Safe
success
flight.
Thank
and
you.
safe flight. All right. So let us go continue the questions.
Mr.
Let's go
Summersall,
to
what does righteousness in government look like in less than 2 minutes, please? So all of our responses, less than 2 minutes,
I
moving
think
Less
on.
than 2 minutes.
that's for me. That's for me.
Righteousness in government, is putting people first, thinking about your neighbors. Like those two commandments, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. I think if you just stick to that, you'll always handle righteously to improve people's lives. Being fair, being honest, those are all things of righteousness. And yes, looking out for your neighbor, just wanting them to thrive in life. If you have that in your heart, you're a righteous person. You're really doing what you can to improve this country and improve people's lives.
Our hot button questions. What are your views? What is your position? Are you for or against the expansion of the rights of the LGBTQ community?
I must say, on that question, our party, we discuss it within the party, hot discussions. I think for something like that, that can really impact our community, I think a referendum is needed. We have to ask the people if they're ready for it. Within the kingdom, we're the only one who don't, you know, execute or have it done. All the other partners within the kingdom has approved it and it can happen. I think this is something we have to take to the people. At this point in time, if you ask me, I will say no, because I don't think the country is ready. But this is a referendum for the people. And as a person, I believe that we have to follow the laws of the country. I'm not there to hold back
If that
progress.
legislation,
I
if
think
the,
people should be happy in their
you
right.
believe that that is progress, is that what you're
No,
saying?
no.
To hold back
Uh,
progress?
Well, things are going to change, but I think everybody should be happy. I am not to judge them in their acts and what they want to do. I leave the judgment up to God.
Okay.
He's the one who will judge and not me.
As a parliamentarian, then Michael,
Sorry?
just as a parliamentarian, so we're manifesting that as a
All right.
parliamentarian, that legislation comes before you. Would you vote for or against based on your conscience?
On my
Yes.
conscience, a man of God, I will have to vote against.
Thank you. We move on to the next one. And I'm not saying thank you because of
No,
what
no,
you
no,
said.
no.
Thank you for responding by following the principle for or against Miss Leonard coming up.
Okay.
Let's go, Michael, with the next question, which is legalization of marijuana for medicinal and recreational purposes. Are
For
you for
medicine,
or against?
for medicine, yes, I'm for.
And
Recreational now.
so-called sin tax, alcohol and tobacco, are you for or against?
I'm for.
Thank you. We move over to Tamara Leonard before we go back to the questions coming in on Facebook. Are you for or against? I know it's been your experience. You mentioned it earlier. Medicinal marijuana and recreational use as well, the legalization.
I do not like this for or against approach because I have an experience of already being in parliament. It is easy for us to say as individuals, I am going to be for something or against it. I've shared with you in the past, in the past as if it's years ago. I've shared with you earlier that I was completely against marijuana. I don't care what form or which way, shape you present it, but life has taught me different. And so I would be for it in that case. However, for the medical purposes, because
Okay.
it needs management, it needs proper control for recreational use. I'm not against recreational use, but we are going to need proper control. So
Thank
it's
you.
a
Thank
for
you. We're
against.
going to move on tomorrow. We're going to move
Okay.
on. So you have said that you are for in the context of the question that was asked. Let's go to the next one,
Right.
expansion of the rights of the LGBTQ community and the
You
protection
know,
of their fundamental freedoms. For or against?
it is not a for against question. It is not a for against question. It comes right back to why did God leave that tree of wisdom in the Garden of Eden for me? It is not my place to God. gave me my right to choose for me. And based on my personal life that I live and Constitution, my Constitution of the Kingdom of God, which is the Bible I study
Bible.
every day, me, Tamara Leonard, live by that. But when I swear into Parliament, it is clearly stated that you are swearing in to uphold the Constitution of the country. And I cannot take that right away from people, because you're not only representing Christians. We got to be
No, no,
realistic.
no. We're
No,
not
but
saying you're taking away the rights. If a petition or a law, a
Comes
draft law
before me,
were to come to give these rights, would you be for the enactment of that legislation or against it?
I would then have to dovetail on Michelle that the people who put me there are going to have to be the people who's going to have to call for that. I will not take away anybody's right to choose whether they're going to choose God freely and his word or not. So I cannot answer that yes or no question. It will
Okay,
not be
let's
it
move
will
on
call
then.
for deliberation in Parliament. It will call for, there's too much attached to it for me to just condemn somebody because they don't share my beliefs and what I deem to be right or wrong.
Okay, let's move on. The syntax. Would you be for or against the imposition of a syntax, so-called syntax on alcohol and tobacco?
Alcohol, tobacco, candy, soda, everything that can you can add a tax to that is killing us slowly. Syntax it.
Okay, so you're for that.
Yes. In extension with other things added to it. I would be one of those that go amend that law to bring in candy, to bring in sodas, to bring in beer, all the things that are killing us slowly. I will be for that.
In based on the same context, then, Miss Leonard, others would want it to remain free and without taxation. I
Oh,
would
we go.
love to use this. Somebody else would not love. It's the same trajectory I'm seeing as it relates to the questions that were asked previously.
Uh-huh.
What is your personal view or your personal belief,
On
and how would
tobacco
your
and
conscience
tobacco and alcohol.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, I would vote. I would vote
against
for. I know.
or
I would vote for it because, and again, these things call for deliberation. It's in a fair question because money, the amount of money that is spent on tobacco and alcohol, man, we need to tax it, even if it's for getting access to some of those resources to fund our schools some more, to give more scholarships for children to go to school. So it calls for deliberation. Let's not throw it in a box and force people against the wall. There are so many benefits to it that you're going to vote for it,
yes,
but not
okay.
just because it's that. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you. Thank you. We're not against the deliberation or the consultation, so we will move on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get what is your personal view, your personal
All
conviction
those
concerning
questions
it.
for me, all of them would call for deliberation.
Okay.
All of them. All of them.
May I ask you then? Let's move
And the
on,
only reason
Apostle.
I stand for marijuana is because of a life experience.
Experience. We get you. We hear you. We hear you, and we understand the passion and everything behind it, the zeal that is behind it. I would want to move on then and ask, since you are running on your record, having been in Parliament and acting, sponsoring legislation and so forth, can you then confirm with us or give us an example of where you were able to engage with the faith-based community, consult with the faith-based community?
So let me give you this one. At a given moment, I'm sorry, I just raw. At a given moment, during right after I think it was Hurricane Irma. And so we just had a catastrophe.
Your response in 2 minutes, please.
I got you. We just had, and I watching it, 1224. We just had a catastrophe as a country, but instead of government and parliament aligning to find ways to do well for the country, it became a fight of power of who doing what, who ain't doing what. And I said to myself, sitting in parliament, I say, you know something? I am going to call the churches together. And I asked at the time my colleague, Member of Parliament Sarah Westcott, to sit with me. I gave the opportunity to all of them. Let's call them in and let's have dialogue and let's speak about what can we do as a church to be able to help the people to feel better, to help with the correction and fixing and getting the country back where it needed to go. And that didn't really go anywhere. But right, it called for election because then government fell again because of that, and then came the Christian party. I had felt so deceived because for me it was like, oh, you sit down here in this meeting with me. We spoke about what's going on and what can we do to help. The least I could have said, well, you know what, see, we actually considering putting a party, and that's just my how I took it. It did not have to be the intention because they didn't know that I was calling them either. So I did then, and I will always, as I can, or whenever I can, I will invite them to be a part of national dialogue. The same dialogue we need to have to make some of these laws is the same way I would want them to be a part of that dialogue, a part of the education reform, that dialogue. Let's bring
Thank you.
prayer back in the classroom.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Miss Leonard, Mr.
Yeah.
Summersall. How
Yes.
can the church be more meaningfully engaged in terms of governance?
Well, I
What
think Miss Leonard
your
said,
recommend?
she said it perfectly. Dialogue. We are all part of the community, and any meeting we even start, governmental meetings we have, there's always prayer before. So saying that you have to keep everything separated is not really going, because we all go to church, we all serve, but the critical part is safeguarding our families and community. And I think this is where church plays a really important part, because it's about safeguarding our families. Decisions that is going to be taken on governmental level has to be in dialogue with how is it going to safeguard our families. And I think that's the critical role that the church play in the whole deliberation and discussions. How is this going to affect our community? How is this going to affect our families? Because we know the adversary tear families apart, and that's how we win. We have to keep our families together and safeguard them.
Mr. Somerset, there was a question I want to go back to that was asked. The 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 viewer asked this question. I think that
Yes.
was in one of your initial statements. This
Infrastructure.
yes. The question is this: to the gentleman, if you were to be elected, how would you champion road infrastructure situation, seeing that we have never had a total road resurfacing in years?
Good. Now, as elected, I think we have to hold our ministers accountable for their jobs. That's one of the roles of Parliament. Um, Road tax is being collected every year, and we say it's to fix roads. We got to make sure that the money, and this is going to happen during the budget debates. Where is the money going to be spent? If we have budgets for fixing roads, then we got to make sure that that money is going towards fixing roads. It has to be done in a timely manner. We just saw a very bad example a few weeks ago. One cruise ship in. What are we going to do? We're going to try and patch the road on the hill exactly on the day with the cruise ship. We need better planning. But when it comes to resurfacing roads, it's all about planning and execution. And this is where Parliament can hold the Minister of Rami accountable for the execution part of their job. Our job is to make sure that they're doing what they got to do, what's in the government program, and this is one way to get it done. Budget debate. What's going to be done with the money that was allocated to roads, and in which time frame we're going to have things done? Problem on the island is that maintenance is lacking, and this is something we got to focus on. But I think it's calling in the minister and keeping a finger on the pulse on, hey, what is happening? Why isn't roads being resurfaced, and why is it not being done properly? The patchwork is not going to work for us. We need to have a longer plan in place to be able to oversee it and have it done correctly. So as a parliamentarian, my job will be to call in the Minister of Rami to ask what is being done and what is being done with that budget that is allocated to roads.
Thank you so much, Mr. Summersall, for elucidating further on what you would have spoken of in the beginning. I would also like to get your opinion of the telecommunications situation in St. Martin currently.
And then we're going to go to GB for both candidates.
Yeah, we spent so much time on GB, but we forgot that you also have a telecommunication situation.
Yes.
Yes,
Can you speak?
telecommunication. It's a challenge for, they have their challenge as well. And it's not pointing fingers, because they blame GB as well for systems being, damaged. Once again, if you look at the region and how far it is with the speed of internet and everything, we're lagging behind. Even the French side is doing a better job when it comes to that. Um, in telecommunications as well, it's the governing of the companies. The directors come straight down. We need good governance. We need transparency in what is going on. And the goal is to make sure that our systems is up and running, because we do need them for schools. More and more stuff is online now. And when we leave that lagging, we compromise our educational system as well. There too, it's to talk to the relevant minister in charge and find out what is going on and what their plans are. That's the role of parliamentarians. We cannot sit on the minister's chair, but we can hold them accountable for how things is going in the country.
Okay, thank you. What about GEB?
Crisis, GB. Yeah, once again, good governance. Unfortunately, now we're going through this situation and everybody's on edge. As a parliamentarian, the right thing was done to call in the prime minister into parliament to have questions on what is going on, what we think and what needs to get done a little bit more outlining in the future. We have to look at maybe make an amendment to the laws and how we can talk to those in charge of GB directly without going through the prime minister as well, that you can call GB in and get the real questions, because a lot of information is shared, but we want to hear it from the horse's mouth. How can we hold people accountable for not doing their job and doing it properly? This is stuff that we can look at. Legislation is there. We don't talk about it that it's old. We need to tweak things, but it comes back to good governance. How far can government go as a majority shareholder in the affairs of GB? Right now, Prime Minister or the government cannot take the decisions. It's up to the supervisory board and the management board of GB. But who will always get all the blows? Government. They're the majority shareholder. But they cannot say where the money is going and when it's going to be spent. And I think these are maybe rules and in good governance and in legislation that we have to tweak so that they can have a more grip on the situation and decisions can be taken quicker when it's necessary.
Thank you very much. For my MP, Leonard?
Which one of these questions you want me to start with?
Both, whichever one you feel more comfortable with.
Okay, GB.
Go ahead.
So, as a member of parliament, having served during the times of 18 and 19 and the very beginning of 20, GB, through the government, was tasked into figuring out a plan forward. One of the things that GB did is GEBE was able to secure a loan with a local bank. The bank had already signed their part of the contract to buy these new equipment. They also had an agreement with a foreign company that they did business with since 1999. They too had signed their part of it so that GB can buy new generators because the generators were old, 30 years old, if I'm not exaggerating. And in that same time, when the government switched, the shareholder rep, which is the majority shareholder of GB, basically said, hold up, wait, don't buy those generators. You do not have the permission to purchase these generators. 4 years later, multiple CEOs later, a decision made by a shareholder rep through the board, through the supervisory board, stalled GB from being able to do what they are supposed to do. And today, that same shareholder rep, that calm, sits in the opposition of parliament asking questions. What is going on with GB? What's going on is you didn't leave them by the generators when they had the opportunity to. 4 years later, the entire country is suffering from it. What we need to do as a people is we need to start to elect responsible parliamentarians who will then appoint capable ministers so that our government-owned companies can benefit from ability and knowledge and experience, and not just taking people that ran on your list randomly and put them in a seat over in the minister because you have to take care of your list, and then they make bad decisions and the entire country suffers for it 4 years later after those decisions were made. We have to remember them. We have to remember who did what when, that we are placed in this situation now. Again, tell them it's the same exact story. Tell them was already dangling on a string. What do? Appoint somebody who is affiliated with a party, not giving them the opportunity to have all the ducks in a row, and then they have to go in there and pick and choose and listen to this one and listen to that one and get advice from this one and that one. And will bring us to where we are today. It literally put us back to like we're in a third world country. Elect responsibly. This whole situation that we are in as a country, yes, as the politicians have a role to play. But guess what? 50% of that responsibility and accountability lies on the electorate. lies on the electorate. Elect people who are going to appoint responsible and capable people so that our government-owned companies can prosper.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I like the fact when you said that you appoint people that will, you elect people that will appoint the right
Yes.
persons, because most times we see people parliamentarians go in parliament and they appoint persons that they can use as puppet strings. But that's my opinion.
No,
And
that's not opinion.
my
That's fact.
opinions. Okay,
That's
thank you very
fact.
much for my MP. Thank you very much for MP for letting me know that my opinion has now on the record been as facts. Thank you very much. I turn over to my colleague.
The question for the students.
I would want to follow up with Mr. Summersall. The
Yes.
CFT Committee for Financial Oversight in St. Martin, they released an advice on August 2nd, I believe it was. In their advice on the capital expenses, we're talking about GB. This is what the CFT said. I'm going to quote it. Regarding the intended investment for GB, which was 75 million guilders for purchase of generators via taking out a loan, regarding this intended investment, the CFT observes that it is of the utmost importance that insight is gained into the financial status of GB first. This was CFT's advice to the government that is led by the URSM government right now,
Yes.
URSM party currently, before trying to come to a solution through the country St. Martin. Considering the social significance, the CFT understands the included solution despite the improper nature of this intended loan structure. What are your
Yeah.
views on what the CFT has said to the government based on the budget that was submitted to the CFT?
All right. I agree with the CFT because we should know the financials. However, when it comes to good governance,
Mhm.
GB is not, how you say, they don't have to follow through and show their financials, is what I was told. You can ask them, but they don't have to disclose all their financials to their rep. That is what I was told. But I do believe if we want to know exactly what is happening with GB, that we have to be transparent on all grounds. Equipment, finances, and everything, because we really got to know where we are at today in order for us to move forward. The Prime Minister, on his own dealing, went to the Netherlands and secured funding for the extra generators that have to come over 2 years from now. Again, that too will have to be paid back. And I do understand that the finances plays a role. They say they look at the income that is coming into GB in order to be able to finance future projects. That is what is most of the time based on. But I do agree with CFT. We have to know the nitty-gritties of the situation
So you're
in
saying
order for us to make informed decisions.
we're taking out loans
Yes.
on something, a government-owned company that we don't know the financial status of properly?
Yeah. Yes,
There's no
because it's
parent.
based on the projections often of what is coming in. So what the people are paying. We know what the outstandings are, how much comes in a year, and they use that as a way for investment in the future.
Is this an
I
indictment against the government, against our political officials?
sorry.
Is this an indictment against the government, against our political officials? You know, we're looking for solutions, short-term, long-term,
Yeah.
medium solutions, but the CFT is saying here clearly, the GB solution that we have come up with, it may not be the best solution based on the social impact of what
Yeah.
is needed for now, and you don't know the finances, the true reflection of the finances. I'm asking this question, Michael, not to be troublesome, but in the
Yes.
context of what you would have said concerning good governance.
With good governance, everything should be transparent and clear. That's for sure. However, the finances that has been put in place now for our short term, the monies has been paid. For the generators that we have now, phase 2 is already in place. Money has already been placed for the phase 2 for the extra 20 megawatts that we're supposed to receive. And phase 3 is still in the making, but phase 1 and 2 decisions has already been made by the supervisory board, has already given approval to that to the management team of GB. Having said that, when it going to phase three, I think we really have to indulge more in what is really going on in there with GB. So I agree with the supervisory board that we should have a clear picture, the total picture of what is happening in GB so that we can make a really good decision when it comes to good governance, but what is feasible for the company so that it doesn't affect the people long term. Because another thing that I don't want and the party don't want is that the fees are going to be transferred to the people. And that's where I say that we need to have a cap on the fuel clause, and once it's going to be raised or you're going to drop that fuel clause, people should be informed, just like how we do with diesel and regular gasoline. Now it's up and down, and we don't know until you see it on your bill. This too is part of good governance, and GB has to be transparent if they're going to carry it up or when they're going to bring it down. But I really believe we need a cap because those fees should not and must not be transferred to the people.
Thank you. We're going to go over to the Facebook to get some of the questions and comments that are also coming in.
Unfortunately, for my MP, Tamara is dropped. She dropped out, so hopefully she'll
Okay.
get back. The question goes to you automatically,
Yes.
Michael. The question is, this friend thing appointment is not the way to go. Appoint those that actually are capable and equipped or knowledgeable in the areas.
That's a comment.
No, I have a question.
Oh.
So the question is, if elected, what are you willing to stand on or say, I will not appoint this person as minister, or at least your voice be heard in your party because that person is a friend of the party? Or are you willing to say, even though that person is not my friend personally, I believe that they are qualified? What are your views on that?
My voice will definitely be heard. This is something that our party discussed with the previous election before postulation day. We will only appoint, we are running for a parliamentary election. These are what the people are going to vote for. People are not voting for ministers. Ministers are appointed. And
Exactly.
our decision was only qualified people with knowledge to do the job will get the position. So don't run on numbers. It's based on qualifications, and you will go through the selection process. For me, I don't care if my friend or my brother, if you're not qualified for the job, you're not going to get that job. We need people in position now who really know what's going on. You know, we need a teacher or somebody who's educated to run education. You need somebody from justice to do justice. We've seen it with the kingdom countries, Aruba and Curacao, especially Aruba. That's the case. The minister of health is a doctor. They know their field and they have that expertise. And this is what we need for St. Maarten, because the friend thing is not working for us, hasn't worked for decades, and definitely it's not going to be something that URSM is standing for, because we have decided we don't deal that way. And you heard the rhetoric after the last elections, where some wanted to be appointed based on numbers, and it was a big noise because that was not the case. We don't stand for that.
Thank you, Michael. I would want to follow up with that, but we really have to move on. So I will ask you this question because I
Yeah.
know the Facebook viewers, they have something that they want to ask based on that, but we'll move on. You know, in the
All right.
time. This is not your first time running. You
No.
were previously a part of the St. Martin Christian Party, the SMCP.
Yes.
I want to ask you, were not successful in terms of getting into parliament, but I want to ask in retrospect now, is there anything that you would have done differently to be more persuasive and convincing to the people? Or is there anything, do you have any regrets in terms of running on the SMCP before?
No, absolutely no regrets. Our values aligned. We know what we were getting into. We campaigned. We did what we had to do. Then I got the opportunity to serve the country under SMCP as Deputy Minister Plenipotentiary in Holland. Boom, government fell, and we had to go back to the polls and everything again. After that election, I decided to take a time out because my kids and my family was in Holland. So I resigned from the party because we was going to stay in Holland for the kids to go to school. And after that, everything just, took its course. SMCP did not participate in the last elections. URSM aligned with the values that I have, but I will never change, and I have absolutely no regrets running on SMCP. Great party, great people, and it's the standards that we have with integrity, honesty, and being there for the people is what really aligned me with the party.
I'm sorry, GB went.
Uh,
Question for Pastor Victor.
yes, the most of them are being able to rent information and parking. Okay.
Your mic is on? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So, Miss Leonard, we are sorry that you experienced a shot from GB a while ago. I don't know if they're watching it live and they retaliated from your comments, but there's a question from someone on the
Facebook.
Facebook, and we want to bring it on, and I'm hoping that we can get an answer for this. It says numerous apartments are being built for rental, but little or no provision for parking. What of a playground for the little ones to play, supervised by a caring adult with special reference to the areas where several apartments are being built? I remember there was some discussion back, I think, in the January election where there are certain candidates were talking about making legislations that would ensure that different communities have different playgrounds and different facilities for sports and whatever not. What are your views on that? I will take Miss Leonard in 2 minutes.
It goes back to legislation. It goes back to legislation. At the end of the day, all these things can be solved. Where there's a lack of legislation, people get to do what they want. When people can freely do what they want, then comes chaos. So just so that I could stay within the realms of my 2 minutes, because my passion is take over, I will just say that indeed we will have to go to legislation and say when building these communities, included must be playground, included must be family areas. When building apartments, it shouldn't be rocket science that you can't have 12 apartments and parking for 8 cars. And trust me, I live in the reality of that. But again, it comes back to appointing proper ministers who are going to have proper order of their ministry, from people giving out permits and giving out licenses to friends, family, and foe for whatever little kickback they could get on it. Listen, it's not nice, but this is the reality we live in. And until we get people who are not afraid to call a spade, and do something about it, we can just continue to live in this. Let me stop because it's short 2 minutes now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Summersall. Your
I
view?
second that. I second that motion. It come back to legislation, and it has to be included in the planning.
Yeah,
You said it perfectly. I don't have to add to it. I second the motion because that's what it is.
that's what it
You know,
is.
it's a free for all right now. We
Yeah.
touch base a little bit on, the kickbacks, and just one little quick policy against for that. I think if we want to get rid of all those little kickbacks when you're acting on your building permits, we could implement two things. You could get a permit in 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. These are the fees. And then that way, anybody who have the money and are able to pay for a 1 month term to get their permit, they get it. It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. If you have the money to pay for that 1 month application, you pay it, and it's fair game for everybody. Because that's now policy, those who are working in that ministry will have to stick to the policy, and we won't have all these under the table activities going on.
Where do zoning laws and ordinances come in
Everywhere.
terms of the sustainable development and so forth? Because you see areas that should be residential, more
Yeah,
commercialized than residential.
that's
I
critical. We have
spoke.
to.
Mhm. No, you go,
No, you
Michelle.
go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We spoke about those people who fund campaigns that things remain as is.
Yes.
These are the little things that I'm talking about, because the less criteria and the less rules that we put in place, the less laws we put in
Yeah.
place to avoid these things, they can't have their way to build a whole nightclub right next to two people's homes, and then you have to deal with noise pollution and members of parliament championing to let it be what it is. It comes back to A, laws, and B, those people who will make sure that the people who gonna do wrong gets the biggest campaign out there so that our people can vote for them. Our people needs to take
Yeah.
accountability for their actions and vote responsibly. That is how we are going to come back to that place where everyone prospers.
Yeah.
Less than 2 minutes.
We're doing well, and
There was
we're
a
learning.
question. There was a
The-
question on education and bringing back home our students. And Michelle had touched on it a little bit. But again, we go back to laws. If we can come up with incentives, through laws, come up with business incentives for our business owners, we can solve all these issues. If a business is saying, I want someone with experience, so although your students just come home, they don't have no experience, good. We will give you the work permit to bring in this person with the agreement that you will get a tax incentive if you hire somebody who just come out of college and let them shadow that experience. Eventually, the need for the extra resource will go, and our people are going to be able to contribute with the experience. Through laws, we could fix so many things, and through tax incentives, our businesses will strive. That is the issue. Our businesses aren't striving because our government isn't doing what she has to do to bring the business to the country. And by extension, the social ills of this country cannot be addressed.
Yeah.
Comes right back to the electorate. Both
Yeah.
responsible.
I have a question, and it relates to this whole global community that we are part of, thanks more so to technology. We live in a time and age where, I mean, look at it, we are facilitated by virtual discussions, and with the social media having so many opportunities for entrepreneurship where it pertains to young persons being influencers. Why aren't we seeing these social platforms being able to really be an option for our young persons on St. Martin, where we pertain to YouTube being monetized and
Monetized.
Facebook being monetized, and as well, it can also be used as a form of um, marketing for the tourism, because we have seen throughout the world how influencers have been so impactful in getting their followers to visit different countries, different states. Why are we seeing that, and what is the problem, should I ask, and what are your options or your solutions to bring change? I'm going to ask
All
Mr. Simon.
right. No, I definitely believe we have to make more use of those online platforms. Unfortunately, it comes back to prioritizing. Where is our priority as a government? What do we want to focus on? And a little bit of culture. The problem with what's in it for me is a big problem on this island. So when it comes to you want to do something, the question all back comes back, what's in it for me? And if there's something not there in it for them, they're not going to push it. They don't care about it. Let's just look at sports. Sports, we have a lot of raw talent on the island, but because sports does not generate the income that maybe the Vrummy department will do, let's just talk the way it is, we're not going to push sports because there's nothing in it for me. And that's the mindset that we have to change. And once again, Tamara is saying it good. It comes back to the electorate. Vote people in who are willing to work for you and who will make the right decisions. We are running because we want to serve. We want to build our community. We want to build our country, our island. This is our island. This is our home. But as long those who are sitting in there now does not have that mindset, things will continue the way it is. And it's always coming back, what's in it for me? This is not about what's in it for me. This is what's in it for the country.
Well said, well said. Mr. Mara Leonard?
100%, I agree with Michelle. Mr. Somersault, you see, we grew up childhood.
We grew up together.
I on the first name, and yeah. I agree with everything that Michelle just said. You know, we have a situation where there was a young lady from St. Peter's, your neighbor, right after Angie daughter, I think Angie Pantaflet daughter. During the pandemic, that little girl hit, well, that young lady, she's not a little girl anymore, but she hit over 1 million views and followers. She could have been monetized so many different ways. But
Yes.
again, the laws are not in place. And these laws, there are certain laws, and I read in the comments, and well, and I agree with you, Miss Powell Richardson, that some of the laws are there, but some of them are old, and enforcement is an issue. You understand? But specifically to answer your question about social media and how it can work for us and how we can benefit from it, we just need to engage with central bank find a way to eventually do away with central bank and get the own central bank. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time. Those are the things that will allow
Yeah.
us to benefit from the rest of the world. But we're too busy mining the rat, mining the cheese, because we can't get the country to get where it needs to go, because we're busy having to hold accountable the actions of ministers who just out there doing whatever they want, and catering to a small group of people so that they alone can be prosperous. So again, it comes back. Laws. Our laws need, yes, revision, and we need to come up with innovative laws that our people can
Yeah.
benefit from them.
Do you believe that if we are able to get monetization for social media for St. Martin, do you believe that that can also help with the tourism
Oh,
promotion? And
these
would that
tourists
be
making money on St. Martin as it is. The tourists is coming to St. Martin and vlogging and saying, this is Captain D's, and this is Maho
that
Beach, and
that
this
is
is
my
a
Yeah.
point.
plane going, and they're
That is my
making
point.
money on it. Of course.
That is my point. That is my point.
Yeah.
My
So
passion
that's
I just
something
get
I
too
really
crazy
believe
sometimes,
that
because imagine we just here having a conversation and everybody like mine seeing the potential
Yeah.
that we have as a country. But
Yeah.
why is it for all these years the same potential has been there, but it's not a priority? It's not a
we
priority.
we have a question I want to ask. It says, why don't you all come together as sons and daughters of the Most High God and
It
form a
almost feel like we are
full-fledged
the same
Christian
party.
party again?
I was going to say that. It almost sounds like we are the same party already.
Yeah.
But you know
Because we're
what?
thinking alike. It's like-minded people. We're having a good
Because we
conversation. We're
pure, because
like-minded
the
people
heart
with the
is in
same
the right
intentions.
place. Our
Yeah.
hearts are in the right place. I might not have it all together. Please, no halo, no wings. But trust me, I am willing, I am seeking, and I not just his kingdom, but his righteousness. I am going to get there at that place where I'm going to be able to stand up on a yes or a no on things that right now I myself battle with. But it is a growing process. I think important is to allow the thoughts of our minds to align with the purity of our heart, and let the words that come out our mouth be pleasing to God. This way we're going to start to finally head in a direction where we can get more and more like minds together. But for now, we got to just do what we can. And again, I'm going to say
Thank
the
you.
electorate is on you. The
Yeah.
voters, it's on you. You have the ability to make an ultimate change in this country,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then hold
You
us accountable.
Thank you so much. Every time we're about to end, that's when we get
The
the
questions
questions
coming in.
coming in rapid
Yeah.
rapid succession.
No
However,
problem.
there's one more question I want to take, if we have the time, and it comes from Pastor Rolando Tolan. He says there are people who were born here and have obtained a Dutch passport and has more voting rights than someone they know. He has people who were, I guess he want to say, not
Cool.
born here and have obtained a Dutch passport and has more voting rights than someone who is born in St. Martin.
The man alive. I don't think his question was misused. I think he missed a word that
Yeah.
exercise their voting rights more than the people that are born here. You have people who come to our country and find more love for our country than we ourselves who are here. Because when you pay close attention to it, we are a big part of our problem. And by we, I mean anyone that holds a Dutch passport, in my opinion, is one of us. We are one. You understand? The only difference between people coming from other Caribbean islands or anywhere in the world, between me personally and them, is I don't know where to go. So whether things go good or bad, is here I have to stay. And for that reason, I will continue to focus on laws that will benefit not the now only, but the future of our country and her people. I have to ensure that laws of Michelle, take a chance, cause
Go
Well,
ahead.
you're
Go ahead.
absolutely correct. The laws has to benefit everybody, and that's why we're running for parliament, because that's where you can make those changes. As Minister Deputy Plenipotentiary in Holland, I've walked the floor of the second chamber, and I've saw how small changes have great impacts on the communities. And this is what we want to bring here, and this is the mindset that we want to do in St. Martin. Small little changes can have such great impacts on our community, but we need the like-minded people to be in parliament, that when a motion is passed, they're willing to vote for that motion because it's going to create impact for the community. And it's not that it's we against you, opposition against coalition. No, it's 15
Exactly.
chairs, 15 seats in parliament. And Tamara is saying it, and I want to say it, people of St. Martin, take back your seats and
Yes.
appoint the people who you want to sit in those chairs to represent you. Because we
Yes.
need like-minded people in there to make it work.
I'm glad that you brought up those two questions, Apostle, coming into the Facebook chat section, because when you look at even the data now that has come out from the Civil Registry Department, the immigrant population, those who were not born in St. Martin Dutch, because some of them are from the French side, of course,
Mhm.
but it's 46% of the electorate. That's a great, that's almost half, we would say,
Yeah.
foreigners that have the right to vote in this election. Now, will they
Yes.
exercise that right? That's something different. But they have the right to vote. I would like to know if you can speak to some of the concerns of the immigrant community here in St. Martin. One, the
Professor.
abuse of immigrant workers in St. Martin, as well as this whole issue of children who are born here to parents of a foreign nationality but have received some treatment from the system, the way it is set up in terms of immigration, that has left them feeling very frustrated. How do you speak to that, to the immigrant population here in St. Martin, many of whom now have the opportunity to vote?
It's sad that it's going on because we are welcoming everybody into our country, and then they are placed in this situation where they become stateless. I know because I could talk from experience within my own family, right? Father from here, mom not from here, but because the baby was not acknowledged, became stateless.
Mm.
But your father is from here. With technology, with DNA testing, I think that even after the fact, it should be possible that you could acknowledge your child without going through all the red tape. The abuse you touch on with the workforce, um, it's totally unfair. It is happening. You hear people talking about it, and it comes back to our laws. If you're from here, they're thinking, okay, you got more rights. So if I hire a local, I might get in trouble with the labor department. But if you're a foreigner, where are you going to run to? Who are you going to go by? You're going to put in a complaint, and then they think, well, I will put in a complaint. And then they threaten them and say, we might get you deported. So you better take what you can. I think we got a deal hatch with all those things. With those
There,
companies, you cannot
What
treat people like that. Human rights is being trampled on.
there
what
is
okay,
there,
Tamar?
there is a
Tamara,
way.
just give us a chance, please, Tamara.
Yeah.
Right.
So to your response in terms of the immigration issue, you were speaking about statelessness and so forth. The child, even though the child is born here to whomever, whichever parent, they take
Hmm.
the nationality of that parent, right? So when
Yes.
it comes to the state, they're either from whichever Caribbean island or wherever they would have come from. But at the local level here, in terms of the Ministry of Justice, do you have a solution? So even in terms of the immigration part, because nationality is for Holland, and you were in Holland, as
Yes.
deputy plenipotentiary minister. Are
Yeah.
you saying that when you were walking those halls, you were championing for them to change the law so that people who are born here get Dutch passport immediately? Or is
No.
there an interim solution at our local level?
No, we wasn't championing that and walking the halls for that at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe if you were born here, and we're gonna have to look at the legalities because you don't want the influx of people just to come and make children and then they get a resident. What we are looking at as a party, and MP Roseberg put it out, is that if you're born here, at least you should have citizenship. So we were
Citizen.
looking at the citizenship for St. Martin. So if you walk the streets that you're not an illegal, if you finish you're 16 years or older, that they're not going to pick you up and deport you to send you where if where your mom came from, because most of the time you get the nationality of your mother if the parents is not married, and then they want to pick you up when you may turn 18 and send you away. But if you was never there and this is all you know, that is very unfair. So at least citizenship for St. Martin should be something that we're looking at in the transition to you putting in for your Dutch papers.
Can I
You know,
just clarity, Mr. Summersall, in terms of citizenship? Citizenship is at the level of Holland. Do you mean just of, I know sometimes our
yes,
brain is faster than our mouth. So just for clarity, we want to get you on the record. St. Martin does not have a passport. That passport is
Yeah.
at Holland. We are not
Do you mean
independent. Do you
residency?
mean
You mean
permanent
residence?
residency?
Sorry, permanent residence.
Oh, okay.
We
Yes.
thought
Thank you for the
so.
clarification.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Mhm. So
You
you're
know,
saying
so
so we have a policy in place as it relates to that.
yes. That we just cannot deport people and they can at least feel like, hey, I was born here, I belong here, I can stay here without having to be looking over their shoulders. I think that plays a long way with people restlessness as well, that they are more comfortable that, hey, I can build something up here because I'm not going to be, deported as soon as I turn 18 years old. But that's something we have to look at in terms for us locally here, how it's going to fit in with, immigration. If you just want to touch on people coming in for work and what we're doing, I do believe a working passport is something we can look at, definitely in high season time, that you give people a working visa for that period of time. And after high season, they know they go back home because there's other countries that does that as well. Once again, we don't have illegal people working. Yeah, businesses will pay their taxes. They will pay their premiums to SFV. So that money's coming back in our coffers instead of having them work illegally on the island. But we will have to put good policies in place and make sure we have our immigration laws and everything intact, because that is another way too that we could reduce illegals on the island. Working visas is something that we was discussing as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna give Miss Leonard. You wanna share your thoughts on this whole situation?
Um, there is a little reality that there is already something in place for that. Once you are born to foreign parents, or if you come here from a young age, you have a certain amount of time that you go through on resident permits, and after a certain amount of time, after 15 years with permanent residency, I believe, not with 15 years in the system without gaps, and with permanent residency, you can apply for your Dutch citizenship. So that is already in motion. Should it be a little more streamlined and better, make it a little more easy to come by or to follow those laws, or to come by it based on backlog and the amount of different little things within the apparatus that slows down the process? Yes, maybe, but we have that. I think what is coming, and I know that on the URSM there is a candidate that is working on it, is that when children are born to foreign parents, that they can come, that they can get temporary residency and renew that up until they are at a certain age, where then they will go automatically into permanent residency, but within the time frame of high school, so that by the end of high school, they then can apply for their Dutch citizenship, because they would have had the necessary time, and then they will come into qualifications for study financing and the like. That is what I know the MP, the now MP, is working on. But everything else stated before, when I tried to interject, was to say that these things exist. These laws are there. If you have your papers renewed, I think for 5 years straight, you automatically come into consideration for permanent residency. After 15 years, and including that 5 years with absolutely no gaps, then you come into qualification to be able to apply for Dutch residency. So that law is already there. The only difference in it now is for children born to foreign parents who does not have their paperwork in order. And that's what I wanted to interject and say.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Unfortunately, we have to end. We would love to continue discussion, not just the two of you, but also the candidate that had to leave, candidate number
Yes.
16 from the All Party, Miss
Manuela, Natasha
Manuela,
Manuela.
Manuela. We really had a wonderful time discussing with you guys, and we believe that you guys did an exceptional job of informing us, the general public, and especially the fifth base community, on matters that pertain to the political arena and how it would guide us in terms of information to the polls in this upcoming snap election on August 19th. As we close, we're gonna give each of you a 2-minute window to just give your closing statements, and I'm going to begin with MP Tamara Leonard.
I would like to once again encourage the people of St. Martin, encourage the viewers here today to remember me, remember what my focus was then, and know that my focus is the same and will continue to grow into addressing laws and bring into the flow of Parliament laws that is going to contribute to the growing and the prosperity of our people, our government, and our country on a whole. I do not believe in appointing ministers for appointing sake. I believe in electing responsible parliamentarians and they appointing capable and knowledgeable people with experience in ministry so that you can benefit from it. What you see here is what you get. Someone that is hardworking, willing to address the difficult issues, willing to hold the parliament accountable, hold the ministers accountable, and to work and serve you, the people. So on August 19th, consider me. Remember me. I want to continue working for we. Candidate number 3 on the Swaliga Action Movement Party. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Leonard, for these awesome closing remarks. Mr. Somersault.
Viewers, I thank you for tuning in and listening to us. I hope you have the opportunity to get to know us better, to get to know me better as a person and what I stand for. I want to say to you, take back your seats so that we can take back our future on August 19. We need leaders in Parliament who will be there to serve. We need leaders in Parliament who will lead with compassion, who has knowledge and willing to work for the people. URSM is a team of professionals from all walks of life that has a heart for this country. Our motto is really to put country above self. We're not afraid to take the decisions that has to be taken. We're not afraid to take the unpopular decisions. We're leading with integrity, and our heart is really there for the people and to work for you. So come August 19, come out and vote. Come out and vote early so that you can cast your vote and you can have your say. Serious times has been mentioned. We're in a critical time of our life. If there's a time that we really needed to come out and vote, we're asking everyone to come out and vote, especially you, good folks of St. Martin, come out and cast your vote. We know you're frustrated. We're all frustrated, but this is your chance. The pen can be mightier than the sword on August 19. Come out, color in that red dot, and vote people who will represent you and represent you righteously. I thank you. My name is Michel Somersault. I'm candidate number 10 on the United Resilient St. Martin Movement Party, and I'm asking you to come out and vote on August 19. We are here to serve. I am here to serve. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Somersault. And as we wrap up, I'm going to turn over to my colleague, the
Well, what a week it has been, Apostle. 3 days preparation before, getting the confirmation from the candidates because we know we're in campaign season
yes.
and people have a very, very busy schedule right now. But we are so glad that the candidates that have come on to the program have been gracious enough to accept our invitation and made the most of the opportunity to be able to speak to the faith based community. Remember, our hashtag for this entire week has been vet before
Before
you
you vote.
vote. Vet before you vote. And so some of the questions might have seemed a little bit unconventional, but these questions that we are that we're asking is so that everyone can get to know our candidates a little bit better. And so we are sure that after you would have stayed these 3 days with us, you have a lot of information, you are informed, you are armed, and you are discerning enough to be able to make the right choices when it comes to the snap elections of August 19th in this year. Tomorrow, we want you to join us again at 10:30 hours because tomorrow we will be having some reflections. We will be hearing from leaders in the faith-based community and they will be giving their 2 cents, apostle, as we would say, on what has happened this week. Not telling anybody who to vote for, but it's their democratic right if they want to. But we
Yes.
will prepare the platform. We will make the platform available for some leaders to come on and share and give their impressions on what has happened this week, what we have heard. We have had some major revelations,
Yes,
and
yes.
but most of all, I believe it has been very refreshing to hear from the candidates in such a candid manner. And as long as everyone's heart is aligned with the will of God, we will see St. Martin prosper, which is the goal, under the hand of the mighty God. So thank you once again for joining us, and we will look forward to you joining us again tomorrow at 10:30 hours. Thank you to all 8 of the parties that responded: the URSM, DP, the NA, the PFP, the Now Party, the OMC, and the SAM. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Everybody, remember to share, like, and even continue to comment. God bless you. Have a good day.
Also, a special thank you to the SMUMF, the St. Martin United Ministerial
Indeed.
Foundation, for
Absolutely.
organizing this wonderful, wonderful series where our faith-based community can get the information that is so vital for voting in this upcoming election. We thank God for each of you that participated, whether you liked, you shared, you commented, your questions. We thank you. And a special thank you to our guest that were on today. That is
Tamara
Tamara
Leonard, number
Leonard,
3.
number 3 on the SAM Party, the Swaliga Action Movement. That is number 10 on the
URSM.
Unified St. Martin, Unified Resilience St. Martin
Movement.
movement. That is Mr. Michael Summersall. And also number 16 on the United People's Party. That is Miss Natasha Manuela. We thank you once again. We have been your host. I am Apostle Dr. Ivan Valerie, and with me is none other than the well qualified Pastor Torana Granston. And so this has been Faith in Politics. Until tomorrow, God bless you and have a wonderful, wonderful day.